Hello, gorgeous souls. I'm Michelle Rosetta, and this is Stories Not to Take to the Grave, a podcast inspired by the rich sharing of traditional wisdom and know-how with storytelling. I believe the remedy our communities deeply require for health and well-being is rooted in our own authentic and unedited tales. Some of what we fear to speak or that which is seemingly mundane to us is exactly what those around us may need to hear in the way we speak our truth. I am a mother of 4, an entrepreneur, and a clinical herbalist. Plant medicine being one of the modalities I work with to assist my community. I have the tendency to make questionable choices, jump off things I shouldn't, along with the uncanny ability to turn it around to land on my feet. It is not only in victory that deep healing lies, but also in our mishaps and trials. Independently and with guests, we will cover topics to support our sovereign journeys to our best versions of wellness. I am not a doctor, and clinical herbalists are not licensed in Canada. Anything discussed pertaining to plants, protocols, and health in general are for educational purposes only. Every body is different. What works for one may not be the answer for another. It is your responsibility and duty to decide whether a course of action recommended to you, no matter it be by your family doctor or natural practitioner, is right for you. During this podcast, we will grow our personal discernment abilities and learn to take off the layers covering the self that lies within, so we may listen in a more profound way. So, let's roll up our proverbial sleeves, start digging, and get down and dirty with everything that makes us already fabulous and on our way up. And, of course, please subscribe, share, and leave a review if you enjoy this content. Let's get digging. I met Vanessa from Arcanum Iter at a market when she was purchasing product from me. She seemed so brave and spoke courageously, and without hesitation. It left me a bit shook, to be honest. We instantly hit it off, and I wanted to know more about her story. I may have some boundary issues, but that's for another time. Let's continue with this current tale. We cover a lot in this discussion, so we may have to have Vanessa back on so she can further unpack such concepts. In this episode, Vanessa shares her story in unveiling the mystery she felt inherently connected to and seemed to beckon her to know more. I am still, due to my own bloodline trauma and the residue left in the collective conscious, fearful of discussing many of the topics we bring up. I have a very real terror left in the back of my mind that I may be burned or silenced. Do not speak about such things. Do not stand out. Do not let people see you, and so on and so forth. I do not specifically know where this comes from, but it is very real in my psyche. It has been my challenge to rise above these types of inculcated belief systems that have for thousands of years disconnected us from our knowing and from our whole selves. I know part of this has to do with how many women with a strong spirit life were burnt or locked away. We talk about bloodline gifts and the traumas that have disconnected not only ourselves, but family members from their spiritual gifts. We also talk about the importance of maintaining balance and grounding when awakening and entering into the realm of spirit. A very important topic that we delve into is her zero policy on betraying herself out of obligation to others and expectations in society. This recording is from over a year ago, and I had no idea what this conversation would awaken in me over the past year. It truly came to pass for me in such a nourishing and strengthening manner. Join me as we observe the mystery and walk behind the veil with Vanessa. I am super honored to introduce Vanessa of Arcanum Iter. Possibly I said that correct. You can fix me after. Vanessa has always been walking her own mysterious path as a highly intuitive empath and a self taught tarot reader of over 20 years. As an eternal student and metaphysical explorer, she craves knowledge from all corners and is trained in Reiki, Yin Yoga, sound healing, is working towards certification as a flower essence practitioner, and has also reinitiated studies into mediumship. In her personal practice, she favors working with divination and collaborating with the realm of spirit. Her offerings seek to provide clarity while supporting the path of personal growth and transformation through life's various cycles and seasons, reminding her clients that the power to change the future is always found within themselves. Welcome, Vanessa, and how are
Thank you so
you?
much. I am well, and I'm so honored to be on your podcast and to be able to speak to you today and get into some juicy topics. So, thank you for having me.
I was hoping you could, because you have some wonderful stories and they were so interesting to me, and I think there's so much to delve into. Are there a certain parts of those journey that you would feel comfortable sharing? And then I would really like to touch on what are some tips and strategies to support you along that
Yes,
path.
I'm happy to share about my journey. I'm an open book. I love explaining and expressing what I've gone through to maybe help others who are tuning in and listening to kind of give them a glimpse into like what this world kind of is or what path, can lead you to following your dreams. So everyone has a unique story and I'm happy to share mine. And I will provide a little truncated timeline for you, just to give you and your audience a
Okay.
better understanding of how I got here. So I would say I would start in childhood, and I would say that I've always been a creative, artistic, imaginative person. And I didn't realize it or have the vocabulary for it, but I was actually very energetically open. And so growing up
Mm-hmm.
playing in my grandparents' gardens and really being outside a lot of the time, I had this connection with nature where it felt very hyper alive to me. It was a really magical
Mm-hmm.
experience. Like when the tree was, when the tree branch was blowing on the wind, it was really dancing in front of me. I could feel how
Mm.
spirited it was. I could sense that there was a consciousness there that was kind of showing off to me or trying to interact with me in some way. So that was a very
Mm.
magical, mystical upbringing I had, just being outside in regular old, nature. Not so regular and old, but it's wonderful. So at that point, I also was very young, delving into my aunt's feng shui and zodiac and horoscope books, and I was really intrigued by this unseen force and this energy that it
Mm-hmm.
really manifests in various different ways but permeates our entire experience. So since I was a kid, I believed in the invisible realm, the unseen world. um, in high school is when I started I would say it's my secret study era. And that's when a friend and I, just one friend and I, we kept it secret. We went to the library and pulled out books on tarot and witchcraft and magic. And we learned in secret, like in our little private bedroom. I was pretending to do homework, but I was actually studying the tarot. So that was a really uh, it was a really cool kind of rebellious part of my life where I was just dipping my toes into that world of the occult and esotericism. I also had my first paranormal experiences as a teenager, which is a whole other podcast episode, but that has stayed with me since. In my university and college years, I would say that's when my clairs or my psychic senses kind of kicked in, and or maybe when I started paying more attention to them and I could decipher
Mm-hmm.
clairaudience versus claircognizance and the difference between the two. I was starting
Mm-hmm.
to separate them out. Um, in my early 20s, I would say that was my meditation era. And I really taught myself out of necessity because I was working in a really toxic
Mm-hmm.
environment and I needed some sort of reprieve after work to really
Mm-hmm.
recharge my battery and just kind of come to a balanced state again. And through that meditation practice, I really gleaned deep, clarifying insights that were really profound, and had a little moment with astral projection. And it was then that I knew the possibilities of the mind and the spirit were infinite. So in that time, I also began studies in Reiki and mediumship, sound healing, and things of that nature. And then in my mid-20s, I was given an old out-of-print tarot guidebook by by a coworker. And it was so surprising to me. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll take this. I can make use of this. And that's actually when I began studying the tarot seriously. And that's what launched me into reading tarot professionally for clients. So I've been reading for other people since 2014. And that leads me to now. I'm in my mid to late 30s. I'm still on this path. I'm still learning. I'm an eternal student, as you mentioned earlier. I love learning and absorbing information, not only for me, but to help others, and transfer that and transmit wisdom and understanding to other people so they can implement, tools and techniques in their own life to empower and uplift and elevate their experience. So yeah, I read tarot for people. I practice Reiki for clients internationally. I've co-led retreats, working on flower essence certification, re-initiated studies into mediumship, and I work full time. So there's never a dull moment in my learning. But at this point in my adult life, I would say that my spiritual practice has moved to the fore of my world. And I feel really good about that. And I couldn't imagine my experience without it. So that's me in a nutshell. That's a lot.
I have so much to unpack there. I just first want you to know how special it is that we did end up connecting, and that now you are sitting at my table, because my experience and even trajectory and timeline is so similar to yours.
Interesting.
And I don't talk about those things because there's times as women, if you were really honest about what's going on,
Yeah,
they'd probably lock you up and take your kids away,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? That is the society we are moving out of right now. And first, I want to honor how brave you are to be able to speak so openly about these type of inner life experiences that many are having, but we have been shut down from speaking to. The other area that I think is so interesting that it plays on that is the generational gifts and trauma, which I have spoken about previously. Those are carried on down the
Yep.
line. So whereas your aunt was practicing within an alternative modality, it was something you picked up on immediately, and it's probably something within that bloodline that's been carried down. And that's so interesting because for me, there's a huge amount of trauma around those gifts, wherein even on the French Canadian side, they're water dowsers,
Okay.
which has been passed down, but nobody talks about
Right.
it. Even so much so that my grandfather and my mother, who are very strong dowsers, fear water, but they're water dowsers. So that's how deep this trauma has gone. And for me to hear how brave you are is so wonderful, because we're on a bit of a different age timeline. But in terms of finding things, like even in high school, I was like, I got to figure this out because there was so much going down. And I'm like, I know I'm okay. I know I'm solid, but there are these things happening. And it was so interesting. I went to the library to go look for a book on what you were looking at for. And the first book, which was in the wrong section, it was under the mystical, magical section, actually was a book on healing self and how we can't move forward until we heal ourselves. And for me, I had so much trauma. And then after I found that book, and it was so funny, after I found that book, then immediately beside it on the other shelf, where it shouldn't have been, was the book I was looking for. And I was like, oh, okay, very funny.
I feel like nothing is a coincidence. Everything is meant to align.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But that's this ether speaking
Yeah,
to us, right? And it's so prominent. And for yourself, you so immediately connected to that energy that's running through the wind, that's running through our
yeah,
trees, that's running in the underground. You immediately connected, and you were so brave to pick up on it and say, okay, people might think I'm a little bit
mhm,
different, but let's just go for it because I need to take care of self.
exactly.
So, when we're talking about taking care of self and how you didn't block this
Hmm.
out, right? But it can get a little cray cray, like it can get a little crazy, and you need to stay solid on your healing
Yeah,
path. What are a few tips that you would share with someone else that's kind of just embarking out on this path in order to keep balanced and to support self,
absolutely.
to care for
Yeah,
self?
and so I'm happy to share three, and some people may not agree with me, and they might we can to have a debate about it, and this is just what's worked for me over time, going through many different types of relationship dynamics and learning from that, and learning from the work, and just like learning from life in general. These are the three main things that stuck out in my mind, which have got me to where I am today. And the first one is
Mm-hmm.
I had to remember that I'm the captain of my own ship. I am the architect of
Mm,
my own life. And I've found personally, there have been many very well meaning people over the years who have tried to step in and influence me and
mm-hmm.
try guiding me into the right direction or a safer path. And, they wanted
Mm-hmm.
me to follow a path that felt right to them, but I knew it wasn't right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are times I did follow their lead. And then I ended up betraying myself, so I had to learn the hard way that, if you continue to listen to other people and people please and follow in someone else's footsteps, you're going to end up suffering down the line. And you can really
Mm-hmm.
end up unhappy in a life because you chose to fulfill someone else's plan rather than follow your own dreams. So, I have to say, don't let others' fear and
Mm-hmm.
projection keep you from following what's right in your heart. It's
May I touch on
Yes,
that
please.
before we get to the next few tips? It's just such a important lesson that you're offering, because again, it goes back to a lot of our family members or friends around us are actually reacting to trauma that has been passed down to them, and they want to keep you safe,
Yes.
right? It's this thing about I you can't do that because there's just such a deep, you will be
Yeah.
unsafe. And you even said it when you said it. And for me, even I have that where I'm like someone gave me tarot cards in university, and I have used them over the years, but always this thing like it's unsafe. Like I'm gonna get burned,
Hmm.
right? Like it's something that's not even rational, but it's in the back of my
Yeah.
mind that I'm like, is that okay? Are these things okay? And that's just so sad, because otherwise this is like a gorgeous treasure box, kind of like, where you said treasure. I don't know if you watched Treasure Island. I have four children, so I've watched it so many times, but it's not Treasure Island, Treasure Planet,
I haven't seen
okay?
it.
And she actually looks like you. Oh my god, you have to watch it, because it's like this feline captain
Oh, I'll check it out.
of her ship in
Okay.
space. Oh my god, I love Treasure Planet. Anyhow, but it's just so interesting, such an important one. We cannot let other people's
Yeah.
trauma, even though they're
Yeah.
well-meaning, impact our choices, because then we betray self.
Absolutely. And
So
it's okay. We
yes.
need to be okay with saying no thank you. Thank you for the advice, but no thank you. I
Mm,
know the direction I need to go, right? Nobody knows better than us what our
mm-hmm,
soul plan and path is. So they can't navigate it for us because we have the map internally. They don't know what our map is. So they can't guide us.
mm.
They will end up misguiding us out of, you know, overly caring and being well meaning. And that can have a detriment to our soul journey, right? And our soul path and fulfilling that.
That is such a hard
Mhm.
topic, coming from the other side as a mom, because and even working within the Indigenous community, autonomy and not walking someone else's path and allowing someone to
Yeah.
fall and figure things out on their own is absolutely central
Hmm.
to their teachings and the way those communities work. It's been a hard lesson for me. Even
Hmm.
though I have been on your side of it, I'm also in the place now as a
Hmm.
mom going, okay, I cannot get in the way of my child's soul journey. They came
Yeah,
through me, but they're here to do these things and figure things out. It's very difficult on both sides
I can see
to
that.
walk your path and allow others to walk their path.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what an interesting topic to
I
bring
know,
up.
and I can go on and
Mm-hmm.
on about that, but I won't. But as you said, you have the
But
hindsight to provide the guidance and the insight. But I think you're really wise
mm-hmm.
in being that kind of guidepost for your children. You offer the insight, and then you let them kind of roll with it or not. You provide it, and that's all you can do, right? You let them lead the life and make the mistakes
Yeah.
they're meant to, because that's how we learn and grow and evolve through trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. That my next tip would be okay with being misunderstood. Be okay
Mm.
with being
These are so
yes.
powerful. These are so
I've lived
powerful.
this life. Oh my, I've
I just,
lived them. So these are the things that stick out to me the most, that I really try to share with others and empower people with. So don't be afraid to be the black sheep, the outcast, outsider, rebel, villain. Sometimes we need to take on that role in
mm.
order to be authentic to who we are. So not everyone will get it or get you, or get your art, or your
Mhm.
spiritual practice, or your business model, right? Or your motives in general. They may not get you. But I this is my opinion. I believe it's better and healthier to lead an authentic life where you are fully satisfied, rather than pretending to be someone you aren't and living out a miserable experience.
May I just add
Yes.
to that? Because it's just such a good top. It's such a juicy point. And there's so many times in life that if we're being true to self in that soul
Hmm.
journey, I've had to make those choices in life where I had to leave.
Yeah.
Right. And then essentially I would be the villain in that
Yeah.
story. But the calling was so deep,
Yes.
to grab my little nest of humans and follow this path that was calling so deeply.
Hmm.
I could not ignore it. If I had ignored it, I would be doing disservice to self. But the catch is, the part that helps people do the act to follow self is that if we do not follow self, if we do not follow that calling, in turn, we're also doing a disservice to the other people's
Yeah.
community, partners that we're with, because they're not going to be following their proper path either.
Exactly.
So when we allow ourselves to be the villain, because we know that that's our higher
Yeah.
purpose, when we allow people to see us in that view, we're actually doing a service to everyone that's involved in that situation. So wonderful point. And please elaborate.
Okay. And I really believe we can get trapped in families' expectations and societal expectations, and
Hmm.
they may not jive with the vision we have for our own life. And I will give a personal example here: the pressure to have children. I am a child free person by choice.
Mm,
That's the lifestyle I want to live. And however, growing up and to this day, I am still pressured by the outside and judged for being a woman and not having children. And so I have to really be the
mm-hmm,
villain in that, and stick up for myself. I know that if I were to have children, I would betray my soul's path. In this lifetime, in this incarnation, that is not my
mm-hmm,
journey. I've done that over and over again in the past. I believe in reincarnation, past life regression, things like that.
mm-hmm,
I know in this life, as Vanessa, that's not my path. My path is to be of service, to uplift and support others in any way I can possible. Hopefully through the gifts and offerings that I share. But even as a regular person, like on the bus or in the subway or at the grocery store, like I know what I am aligned with. I know what my purpose is, and having children is not part of my path in this lifetime. And I have to say, women don't like hearing that. And I have been judged harshly for that. I
Mhm.
have been debated against. Like, I know what's good for my own life, I know what's good for my path. And, people will not understand it, and they will judge you, and they will, speak horribly of you. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being misunderstood and pushing that aside, because I don't have the time and energy. I don't have to even prove anything to anyone. I know what I'm here to do. I have my task list, and I'm doing that. And that's what my focus is. So I'm okay being misunderstood.
What I don't want to take you off track of the strategies, but I do want to touch on that a
Sure.
little bit because it does come up in your like your social media posts, and it's come up actually twice now as we've been
Yeah.
speaking about how much debate and pushback
Hmm.
there is, and when we're living in that type of space, it can cause trauma in our own
Oh,
bodies,
sure.
right? What's something you do to take care of the amount of friction you feel
Mhm.
in your space to be able to neutralize that, because it is a lot to deal with,
Yeah, and
right?
over time, I've managed to not be affected by it, I'm able to just push it out of mind, or but in order to handle the more contentious conversations or topics, and really care for my well-being, definitely get out in nature, clear my mind, go for walks,
Right.
just absorb the power of the trees. I'm lucky to
Mm-hmm.
live near a forest, near an observatory, and has beautiful old trees in there.
Mm,
And there's wildlife, there's deer, there's beaver even nearby. It's just, I love being immersed in
mm-hmm,
another world and allowing the frequency of nature to work on me and heal me and rebalance me. If I can't get out into nature, definitely meditation. I love
mm-hmm,
to self reflect. I love to think and tease apart situations and conversations that didn't resonate or didn't feel good with me, to really
mm-hmm,
address them head on, or understand where that person is
mm,
coming from, and understand how I could have explained myself in a more clear way. I love to
mm,
really process difficult conversations. I really tackle them head on. I'm not one to sweep things under the rug. So I will take that in my personal practice, take it back, think about it. And there are times I might have the realization, oh, maybe I didn't have to explain myself at all, actually, because not everyone deserves an explanation, right? It's my life. I don't have to answer to anyone, but I am an open book, and I am happy to clarify things for people so they have a better understanding. But yeah, I do like to really self reflect as well. Um, if I
mm-hmm.
need to,
A lot of that,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say on the forest part and the trees, and there's different countries in Europe that call it forest bathing,
Yes.
because they have all of the different frequencies that are there to heal and neutralize us. And actually, I've been practicing after my runs, as long as it's not -10,
Yeah.
to put my feet and my hands on the ground without touching, like without touching,
Yeah.
tech, for 30 minutes. Apparently, it's 30 minutes in that type of space, and it will neutralize and take the negative ions and bring them into the ground and then replenish you with positive energy, which was interesting. And the other aspect I wanted to touch on, and definitely I want to get to your third, but it is within what I was hoping to discuss. And look, she came up all on her own. So you do a lot of shadow work.
Yeah.
Not all of us can do it, right? And the thing is, we know that this space is a mirror
Yes.
of ourselves, in terms of what lessons are we supposed to be learning, what triggered, when we get triggers,
Hmm.
it's often that shadow work,
Absolutely. Yep.
that shadow self coming up to say, oh, maybe you need to look at this,
Hmm.
right? She's not always
Yeah.
nice. She's strong,
Hmm.
right? And she's like, let's get in here, cut this shit out and move
Yeah.
on. right? You have a very strong um, shadow self that's doing a lot of work in this lifetime. What do you think about? I mean, that's my perspective.
Mhm.
What do you think about the shadow self, shadow work, and how do you work with that?
I think shadow work is critical to our mental health, emotional, physical, spiritual. It needs to be done. It needs to be incorporated into our life in order for us to feel whole. I believe that the shadow self is made
Mm,
up from repressed and suppressed emotions, behaviors, characteristics,
mhm,
which are deemed not good or unacceptable or unlovable.
mhm,
You know, it's things that we don't like about ourselves that we tend to conceal or avoid or deny.
mm,
Things that are swept under the rug because they're too hard to look at, right? Shadow
mhm,
aspects can sometimes be triggered by childhood events that have gone unresolved,
mhm.
but not always. It can just be baggage that we carry that creates an insecurity in us until we sort through it, we understand it, heal it, and integrate it. And like,
And what do you think?
sorry, go ahead.
I just want to get like, what do you think about the whole? So the total solar eclipse that just passed,
Hmm.
right? It was about how darkness comes into light, and that in this particular space in our Earth realm,
Hmm.
working with dark and light is how we are mastering
Yeah.
cells right now, right? So that that shadow self as a teacher is a very interesting concept to me. So I don't know if you want to expand on
Yeah,
that.
so I'm not an astrologer, but I enjoy learning about astrology. But what I understand
Mhm.
about eclipses on an energetic level is that they act as like a hard reset. So it's like ripping the plug of the laptop right out of
Mm.
the wall. Hard reset. If the laptop's not working, you know, it's freezing, whatever, it's just not working for you that day, ripping the plug out of the wall, completely just saying like, fuck it, we are we are starting over, we are starting fresh because something wasn't working. We weren't achieving
Mm.
the progress that, you know, we didn't get to the progress point we should have by this point in some cases. So we just need a hard reset to refresh things and start anew. So I think that's really
You
important, but it can be very intense for people who are not moving as, I don't want to say as quickly. Everyone's on their own path. Everyone takes their own time to heal, but the eclipses definitely speed up the healing and the inner work journey.
and that's the part that was so interesting to me because it ties right back to the first part of our conversation. The less prepared you are for these energetic resets,
Yeah.
changes, shifts in this space that we're working and playing in right now, it can be very
Yeah.
detrimental to our life path here. That's, I would suggest, been
Yeah.
calculated, you know, out of a certain amount of generational
Sure.
trauma. Because if people are prepped for a shift or this energetic reset, yes, we're still going to get, like you said last week with the cards. There's a
Yes, the
tower.
tower
Things
card.
change. I've been learning. I have personally been learning to make peace with the
Yes.
tower and not again that fear level,
Hmm.
right? But the point is that what I when you take it upon yourself to be
Hmm.
open to what you have allowed into your space and your life path, your ability to be prepared for these energetic changes on the planet is so much more
Yeah.
benevolent, right? And we're still going to go through it, but it's like being the treasure planet captain of the ship, right? When the galactic waves come in, because we have become astute and
Hmm.
practiced captains, we're able to navigate it in such a more positive way.
Absolutely.
Just going back, definitely there's more on shadow that we may delve into, but I did want you to finish off because I'm so interested. So, your third strategy or tip
Yes.
to managing, uh, pursuing this type of life path, what is that?
So I would say, and this might sound a little harsh, and it is, whoever doesn't
I wouldn't expect anything less at this point. You know that, right? Like I
You know,
already got it. I
I'm
know who
just a
I'm
no
talking to.
bullshit kind of person. I really am a no bullshit person. I don't have
Just do
time.
it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you do not,
No,
if
don't. We don't have time. You
no,
just got to say it the way it is
yeah,
right now. That is the time that we're in. Don't
no,
sugarcoat. Just say it. Get it out. Get over it and keep walking because that's what people need right now.
absolutely. Life is too short to deal with people's bullshit. So my third piece of wisdom is if you don't bring me peace, you do not get my attention. I don't care who
Ooh.
you are. I don't care if you are blood related, if you are a family member, friend, coworker, doesn't matter. If you create undue stress in my life due to your own shadows that have gone unchecked, due to your own lack of emotional intelligence or personal accountability, I will not tolerate that in my life because I have important work to do. I've been there. I've been the
Hmm.
people pleaser. Oh, you just go see them. You know, you kind of have to, or just. But when I go to
Hmm.
places and I don't feel like I am respected, or I don't feel like I am met with dignity, or for whatever reason, I betray myself in those situations. I am never
Hmm.
putting myself in a place where I have to betray who I am and my mental health. I don't care who it is. And I'm very ruthless about that. And I have a zero tolerance policy for being around people who don't do the inner work. I'm sorry. That's a no no for me. It's one thing if
That
you
is
are,
so.
sorry to cut
Yeah.
you off. It's one thing if you are
Yeah. No,
actively
no.
working on it, but if you are constantly denying the shadow, no, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just the way I am. Deal with it. I will deal with it and I will put up a crystal clear, solid boundary, and that will be the end of that. And I will carry on investing time and energy into important matters that align with who I am. And because I don't have time to waste energy on people who just cause chaos. So that's a very um, uh, solid piece of wisdom that has brought so much power and peace into my life.
I really appreciate you bringing up that as well because that is definitely a priority for self that I think a lot of us are stepping
Mhm.
into because we have been placed as martyr for
Yeah.
so long. The time of the martyr is now passing,
Yep.
right? We're moving into sovereignty and
Hmm.
autonomy. But that whole idea that I need to martyr this whole part of
Yeah.
myself to make you feel
Yeah.
comfortable. Like, I understand that. I was brought up as a
Hmm.
hostess.
Hmm.
Like, I need to host this
Yep.
person. I said, no, I
Yeah.
don't. Right. It took a very long time. It took up to like this, like, I think we're given what we need to learn our
Yeah.
lessons. And actually, through my children, they're young adults now, but saying, you know what, mom, that person is not good for my mental health. I cannot be
Yeah.
with them. So I think I've been given what I've needed to learn lessons because I was so in the place of
Yep.
martyrship, right? Or are not honoring
Yeah.
self out of fear and concern for
Right.
others. And I was not, if I did not have the people on my team, like my crew, my people I birthed
Yep.
through my vessel, then I would have been essentially, I think it would have taken me a lot longer and lost. But the interesting thing is, it is a difficult one for many people, which I think we've been faced with
Mhm.
greatly over the last while. How do I tell someone that is a loved one
Mhm.
that I cannot do this with them? And for me, because you have children, I have
Yeah.
children, right? So like, and they're working on their shadow selves. Like, that's why we do the
Yeah.
work. We do the work so that potentially in the next generation to come, they don't have as much work to
Right.
do, right? But we're all doing work together. And I have noticed for me, and it sounds so silly, I think it's not the words, but it's the intention with the words. I will say, I do not consent to this in my
Yeah.
space. I'm going to have to leave, and I really hope you choose something that I can participate in. I cannot participate in this, and
Mhm.
I leave the situation. It's very interesting though. At the first part, my crew would make fun of me, be like, "Oh, Mom doesn't participate. Let me guess, Mom, you don't participate. And I'm like, that's right. I don't
Yeah.
participate.
Well,
Not participating in this. I would need a t-shirt with it. But it's that interesting
mhm,
balance is all I'm
yeah.
saying, is that we can find a way to honor
Yeah.
that and to still work with people that are in our space. But there are, this is the point, there are so many this is what I've learned over the last even 2 months. Why do I have this person on my social?
Mhm.
Why do I feel like I have to host them on any comments? I don't, they're not nice
Right.
to me.
Exactly.
Why? Past work, past colleagues, past people you worked on projects, or and family that's in the
Mhm,
vicinity, or all
mhm,
these different
mhm.
entanglements. We keep a massive amount of entanglements. We don't need them. Technically, all of those people, if they're not,
Yeah.
aligned, you don't need them in your space. And then you have so much more space to work on things with the crew that is supposed to be there, right?
Absolutely.
So, such an interesting, I love all of this. And I love that point so much. And it is definitely a difficult one for many of us
Yeah.
as we've been conditioned and as we're growing and as we're honoring self.
Absolutely. It can be difficult. Um, but it is so necessary for your well-being not to be under constant stress, right? When we are constantly worrying about others or people pleasing, we are pouring our energy into like black holes. It doesn't, it's not supporting or sustaining anything, and we just have to realize at a certain point when to cut it off, when to speak diplomatically about it, and when to protect your energy. So boundaries are everything for me. And again, going back to the villain point, I don't care if I'm a villain. I respect myself enough not to put myself in situations that, ooh, you know, uh, don't meet me at where I want to participate in life at. So I
Do you find that lonely ever?
no.
Do you ever get a feeling of loneliness?
I don't actually. I don't ever have a feeling of loneliness because I believe my peace overrides that. The peace, the energy of peace
Mm,
is just so all consuming and wonderful to have. I can go to bed at night and my soul is at peace. That's almost like a priceless type of feeling to have. So I can, I feel like I wouldn't trade my peace for anything. Even if I am lonely, we're never really lonely actually because
mm-hmm,
we live in a world filled with spirit. So, and this goes back
mm-hmm,
to my point on animism, right? Everything is alive with spirit. The
mm-hmm,
plants, your house plants have a spirit. Your pets, of course, have that consciousness and spirit. You have neighbors, right? We are never alone in this world. Um, and we can find other connections that are meaningful, healthy, and that sustain us. And they can be outside the bloodline, the extended family, the work group. So we actually have we live in a world that is very full of spirit and connections that we can make and with allies, and they don't always have to be animal or human.
mm-hmm. You know what's so interesting, and that's just such a great point to give others, a sense of
Yeah.
hope, because I think a lot of our community has stayed in trauma bonds
Mhm.
and has stayed in these reoccurring generational
Yeah.
cycles, because there's a fear that, oh, if I go on my own path, I'm going to be so
Yeah.
alone. But the interesting thing is, as we keep walking on that path of spirit, your whole vessel and life gets filled with all of this unseen and seen, and you
Yes.
can feel it and collaborate and communicate, and that idea of loneliness seems to dissipate,
Absolutely. It's not
right?
even a thing
It's
anymore
such
to worry about. And I'd also want to add in, we can make connections with our, loved ones beyond the veil who have crossed over. We can work with angels or
yes.
saints or whatever deity that you connect with. They are very much alive and you can connect with them and build a relationship that way that supports you, sustains you, and help support your resilience in the world. So we have
Mm.
many tools and
You,
and relationships that we can help bolster us in this lifetime.
1000%. You know what I've been learning too, even on this plane? We don't have to be with
No.
someone to be within a healing relationship, or to be working on our generational traumas
Yeah.
with. Simply by bringing them into that space and having a conversation, they don't have to be
Right.
there. And I think we're just reconnecting to all of these different gifts and means of communication, and it's just so it's so
Yeah.
exciting. But that does bring, it's a wonderful
Yeah.
segue. This is a wonderful way to move into, how do you use your different modalities to learn, grow, support others?
Thank you for this question. I love this. And this is where I will insert my love for tarot because I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
therapist. I don't have any therapy certifications, anything like that. Um, but I
Neither do bartenders, just so we put that,
but what
or hairdressers.
right? And we all kind of do the same thing, right? We listen to people's life, experiences, their issues, their challenges, obstacles, even the things they want to celebrate, and we can offer a sort of mirror and reflection to them and provide different perspectives on ways to look at and handle and manage, or celebrate those life experiences. So this is where I want to talk about tarot, because the tarot for me is my number one tool to help assist people going through any type of obstacle, issue, hardship in their life. Because what tarot does, in my opinion, is act like a mirror. So you're holding up a mirror,
Mm,
and when you look in a mirror, you see reality, you see you. And the problem is that some folks have a hard time being honest and realistic with their life story, or the current thing that they're going or working through, or trying to manage. And so what the tarot does is provide that clear, honest reflection of what's going on. And they can, and it's laid out right in front of them. So although they may come to me thinking about an issue in one way, the tarot will be laid out and they will see it from a different perspective, or a
mm,
place of that illuminates another type of perspective in their mind, and they can say, wow, I never thought about it that way, or wow, I didn't realize it's
mm-hmm.
not that bad, or it's whatever. The tarot is just a wonderful tool for self-reflection, for shadow work, but also for prediction and fortune telling and things like that. I use it both ways. I'm very comfortable using it to reflect or to predict, but it's such a wonderful tool because it provides that reality check. It's a very clear, concise reality check. That also can be very gentle at times, but also very clear and blunt at different times. It depends on your scenario and how much of a reality check you need, and the cards will definitely provide that.
So the interesting thing I'd like you to talk about, because I know I'm not alone in the
Yeah.
world, right, in terms of my perspectives. Um, I really, so there's a few aspects with the tarot that and mediumship that I've
Hmm.
struggled with over the years, but it's only one Eurocentric view of mediumship,
Hmm.
because I've been within lots of different cultures where technically when we're sitting together we are dealing with
Yeah.
mediumship, right, and talking to those that have passed and asking for direction and
Hmm.
guidance. But feared anything like that, because I thought, this is demonic, because
Mm.
that was put in my head.
Yes.
This is sinful, like this whole idea of, what is not allowed, that's bad, that you're going to be in trouble
Right.
for. That was so ingrained, and it was silly, but it's
Hmm.
ingrained, and mine did not leave those ideas. And still I have a tendency to be, they were, I still have a tendency to feel like that in the
Hmm.
back. But the more that I've worked with that shadow self and offered space for her to come
Hmm.
in, to be able to deal with the different traumas and where I've been harmed, or where I may get strength from working with my
Yeah.
shadow self, those types of things are starting to seem like silly,
Yeah.
So, but at the start it was so strong. And then the other thing is, working, and I just would like your perspective, because I think working with, I'm very careful with who I allow into my spiritual
Mhm.
space. I have quite, big boundaries, whether that's because of harm or because I understand the depth of that
Mhm.
realm. But when people, so I don't really go to mediums, it really bothers
Mhm.
me. But then I am working with older, like, older grandmas and grandpas. So I can't say that, but I never gone to like the rec center and go to a mediumship, because I don't want someone, I know the power of the
Yeah.
word, and I don't want people to speak over me, right? I don't want them to direct my path.
Mhm.
So those are some of the struggles I've had with working with those types of gifts. What are your thoughts on that?
So I totally understand that demonization of mediumship, because we have been ingrained by religion to believe that it's evil. This, or specifically Christianity, Catholicism, right? And I grew up Roman Catholic, but at some point I have to realize, like, not everything, like the Bible doesn't teach you everything you need to know in life. The Bible, it doesn't teach you, like, there are other.
I was a philosophy religious studies major, so literally when you find out it's like scripture that's non-linear from a various amount of tribal units from over an expansive amount of time, you're concerned about it's, I definitely believe it's a transcendental
Yeah,
document, but it gives you a whole different perspective on how to work with that type of
right.
scripture. Absolutely,
And I'd just
1000%.
like to add that mediumship and spirit communication existed for thousands of years prior to religion. you know, Animism, the spirit of connecting with the world around you, that has existed since the dawn of time. So just in the last 2000 years, now it's demonized. Well, I don't buy that, even though I understand the fear and the wanting to separate yourself from it. Because, honestly, even when I mentioned, when I started reading, like learning about tarot when I was a teenager, I had those same fears in my mind, even though I grew up in a family that was very interested in divination and mediumship and spirit work,
Mm-hmm.
and going to psychics and things like that. So even though I knew my family was going to be okay with what I was getting into, I still had that fear
Mm-hmm.
popping up in my mind. And I was like, no, wait a minute. Like, I'm not letting religion block me from exploring this wonderful path of divination and then later on mediumship. And so to touch on your point about being afraid to connect, um, it is true that the spirit world is a big, vast place. And there are not only spirits that are there for your highest good and greatest potential. Let's be honest about that. There are entities that are old, like older than, formalized religion. And there's different types of entities out there. So I believe, and in the mediumship that I am studying, I believe intention is everything. If you intend to connect with a spirit and a loved one that you are related to on the other side, you open the door for them to walk through. If you want to connect with a
Mm-hmm.
deity specifically, and that is your intention you put out there, they are more likely to come through. The portal is more narrow
Mm-hmm.
for them to walk through. But if you just go into a meditative state or you enter into your mediumship mode and you're like, okay, it's a free for all,
Mm-hmm.
let's go. You're gonna definitely bring in energies and entities that you may not necessarily want to work with. And I have to say, not every, what I may consider energy that I don't want to work with, may be an energy or spirit that someone else chooses to work with. So it's all very personal, and the intention is everything, as they say.
Well, I just want to add to that, because it's such a good, it's such a good reminder. But this is why we do the
Yeah.
work, to keep our space clean, to keep our bodies clean, to keep our energy
Mhm.
fields clean. Because if you're vibrating if you're resonating at a high divine
Mhm.
frequency, any of those negative low base frequencies they can't come in,
Yeah.
because you are vibrating at such a high place that there's no, it just simply won't, right? And it's just such a good thing to remember, because if we have stuff coming in that's getting in our way, or obstacles, that's a time to
Mhm.
reassess and say, what am I not cleaning up
Right.
here? What do I need to look at further? It's just such a fabulous point. And the other thing I did want to say, because I'm recognizing it around me, even with one of my neighbors I become friends with. She's at a very destructive place in her life, but I can see she has these incredible gifts. And the
Mhm.
reason is because I have been at a space of a lot of chaos,
Mhm.
right? But if we deny our gifts, if we deny that part of ourself, we simply get
Yeah.
weaker. So as she's been starting to expand and work on some of these things, and just like sit with her stuff, right? And like, just sit with it. You don't have to do anything. I am recognizing the amount of health and healing
Mhm.
that is coming in that hasn't come in for a long time. And it's interesting because, to be a little bit open about myself and my experiences, I've had these wolf issues, which is a whole other podcast, which I'm sure we would love to delve into. But I was told, by a very medicinal
Mhm.
community, they're like, Michelle, if you don't, and I was at a place of chaos.
Mhm.
Like, there was so much coming in. I'm like, this is out of control, and I am not well.
Mhm.
And nothing. I like went to you know, different segments of our community, sacred
Mhm.
community, on how to deal with things. I finally went up north, and they're like, if you don't feed your wolf, you are never going to get well, because he is starving.
Mhm.
Like, you need to feed your wolf. And it was so interesting, because then I started within the practice of how, for thousands of years, people have fed and cared for these different protectors that we have,
Mhm.
that we're not even cognizant of
Mhm.
anymore. But mine was so strong in my face. I was like, I had to deal with it, and I had to learn how to work with it, or I would have remained weak,
Mhm.
not strong, no spiritual boundaries, and in a place really of uh, I don't know how to say it, but my boundaries were not strong
Mhm.
enough to protect or to create health and
Right.
wellness, because there was so much coming in. So
Mhm.
as soon as I honored that part of myself, all of a sudden my life turned
Yeah.
around, right? And it got stronger, and I was able to heal. So I think that, simply, I want to reiterate, going back to the start of our conversation, how important
Mhm.
it is to be brave
Yeah.
enough to allow ourselves to be open to what's trying to communicate
Mhm.
us in this world that is spirit. This whole world is
Right.
spirit, right? Even though they ixnayed that at, I don't know, 800 BC or whatever, and said, oh, nobody can talk about spirit anymore, which is
Mhm.
insane.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Christos, Christ, all these different elements. It's spirit,
You're it. Yeah.
right?
I like to think of it as broken telephone, right? Like Jesus's message, it can be translated from what the Buddha had to say, like it's all
Mhm.
like the formal religions are all connected in some way. And it's just we're playing broken telephone because over time they've spread out over the world, right? And everyone's kind of interpreted it in their own kind of way based on their culture, their environment, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all the same message, roughly. And that's my opinion. But besides that, there are other spiritual practices that we can delve into in almost like conjunction with it. That we can mix and match. I feel like that's the beauty of the spiritual path. You get to decide what you want to delve into, what you want to participate in, and what you don't.
And when you're using something like the
Mhm.
tarot, that was a tool that really spoke to you,
Mhm.
and you're able to help give
Yes.
clarity to the broken telephone
I hope
messages.
I hope I do
Would
that.
you agree
Yes,
with that?
that is my intention, that is my aim. And my clients do reiterate that to me, and that is what I intend to do with everyone, and why I provide readings. I think it's just such a helpful tool to bring people back to who they are. Allow them to remember
Do
who
you
they are.
have your, it's okay if you don't, but do you have your cards
Oh,
by
I
you right
do.
now?
They're always within reach.
Oh, do we want to pull a card
Sure.
perhaps to to give some, I don't know, clarity, enlightenment on our
Yeah.
conversation, or maybe what was channeling during our conversation? I think that would be
Okay,
fun.
let me pull a card for our conversation. a nice adjunct to our discussions. And we went everywhere today. I love that. We very fluid.
I think we're just taking off the toppings of a lot of places I want to go with
Exactly.
you.
Yeah. So Tara, what can you show us about our conversation today? What can you reflect back to us? What do we need to know? What do the listeners need to know for our greatest good, highest potential? What can you share with us about today's conversation? Can you see my hands? I'm not sure if you can see my hands. Oh, okay.
No, but I think on potentially on the extended video, people would be able to see it. I have it in a closed frame right now.
So
I can hear them though.
So this is called a jumper when one card just kind of flies out of the deck. So that's very yes. So I was still shuffling, and then
we got a jumper.
Yeah, we got a jumper. So I'm gonna pull that one, and I'm gonna speak to that one.
Okay.
So that's the Judgment card. Okay. This is a major arcana. This is a destiny card, a fate card. So just for your knowledge, the tarot's separated into two categories: minor arcana, major arcana. The minors are the day-to-day energies we all live and work through and manage. The minors. Then the majors are the big destiny points, the pivotal points in our journey where we have to stop and think and potentially make a decision and change our lives for the better, and it helps us continue our evolution in a major way. So we have Judgment here, and as you can see, well, I will describe it to you. These people in blue were kind of raised from the dead, right? So if we take a look at the top of the card, there's an angel blowing its horn, awakening them, calling them to rise again. So the Judgment card, to me, it can also be known as, I also like to think of it as transformation. So what were we talking about today? We're talking about transforming ourselves, evolving, healing, up leveling who we are from the day to day, realizing we are such powerful, incredible beings that have so many gifts to share with the world. Doesn't matter if people understand us or not. We can rise up to the occasion and meet ourselves where we want to express and share our gifts with the world, or just even for ourselves. But the Judgment is calling us to rise above the status quo, rise above what is comfortable, what we have been told is safe, or the level we should play at, or the box we should fit in. This card breaks through all those boundaries and glass ceilings, and it asks you to really rise to the occasion, show up in all your fullness, in your magnificence. Remember who the fuck you are and show up in the world that way. So that's Judgment.
May I say what I'm also getting through as well is that idea of self-judgment, that we are our own prison keepers.
Absolutely.
That potentially we are able to walk out into our most highest path, and we don't have to punish ourselves
100%. Absolutely.
That it's us, right? It's us that judges self. We need to see ourselves in our highest potential, because that's the keys to the prison.
We need to unlock our own mental prison, and then we need to unlock from the prison of societal external expectations that are placed on us. We have one precious life to live in this incarnation. Life is very short. We need to act accordingly. Don't be afraid to follow your heart, follow your dreams. Don't be afraid to up level. Don't be afraid to make people feel uncomfortable being who you are. We are here to shine our light, share our light, and help everyone rise together and elevate our experience on earth. And we can't do that when we're playing small. So this card is about breaking through those boundaries, those barriers, and playing big as we're meant to play.
Oh, Vanessa, that is such a beautiful place to wrap this conversation up. We have to play our character and stop playing small.
Absolutely.
Play big.
Yes.
Yeah. Take that, all this gorgeous energy coming in, and use it to catapult ourselves forward into our most glorious selves. So With that, Vanessa, I am so I'm just so happy we had this conversation, and I really look forward to talking to you again in the future and starting to unpack a massive amount
Yeah.
of topics that were brought up.
Me too. I'm happy
Yeah.
to speak again and chat with you. I really love these discussions, and I really think they're important topics that need to be disseminated out into the world so people have another perspective, and right, like they don't need to feel so trapped in their reality. We have the power to change our reality, and it starts with new ideas and new concepts, new perspectives to think about. So this is a wonderful platform for that, and I thank you for inviting me today to speak with you.
And once again, you brought it full circle back to reminding her clients that the power to change the future is always found within themselves.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for dropping by Stories Not to Take to the Grave. I hope you feel inspired to take more time to listen to your own internal wisdom and to find the courage to share your story. If you like this content, please share, subscribe, and I would be ever so grateful if you took the time to leave a review. Until next time, keep on digging.